this video, we're gonna discuss how to add lighting to your illustrations. But before that, let's discuss the concept behind lighting. So I usually use a free lighting setup. So this is a technique in cinematography, like the ones you usually see in films. For example, you have this ball as a subject. And let's consider this as the top view. You're looking at it from above. The first light is called the key light. This is our primary light source. This is usually the brightest. The second light is called fill light. So when you have a key light, your subject would have shadows on the part that the key light couldn't hit. So the fill light is placed in a way where the shadows would be. The purpose of the fill light is to control the intensity of the shadows. Having no fill light would produce the darkest shadows, and having a bright fill light would somehow eliminate the shadows. You could also use colored lights, and that would change the color of the shadows. So one thing to note though is that darkness isn't necessarily a bad thing. In fact, darkness emphasizes light. So I have committed this mistake early on in my career where I hesitate using dark shadows, or I hesitate adding shadows to my scene because I feel like it would make the scene look dark or the scene look evening when I want it to be afternoon or morning. But if you are going to observe your room, you will quickly realize, no matter what time of day it is, that the room is in fact in shadow, or majority is in shadow. If it's in the morning, majority of the room is still in shadow, but the intensity of the shadows is low. It's because your primary light source is too bright, so the shadows aren't that dark. But try to observe it. Okay, in the morning, observe your room and you'll quickly notice that majority of your room is in shadow. Moving on to the third light, this is called the backlight or rim light. This is usually placed at the back. Now let's look at this at a different angle. So let's say this is the floor. The local color, that's another term you should know. The local color is the color of the subject. In this case, it's red. But if we turn off the lights, the color would be, at least for us the viewers, it would be dark red. Let's add the key light here. It's lighting this part of the ball, and this side would be in shadow. Because the light is here, let's add a cast shadow. Now let's add a fill light here. So in an illustration perspective, the fill light isn't drawn. The presence of the fill light is when we maybe adjust the color of the shadow or lessen the opacity. Lastly, let's add a backlight. Usually you add a backlight to add depth. Right now, the background is dark, and there's little contrast in the shadow part and the background. So if we add a light on the back, then this part would capture some light. And let's say the color of the light that we used would be blue or cyan. So let's apply this to an illustration. So first, let's turn off the lights. I achieve this by having a solid color on top and change the blending mode to multiply. Let's call this as our shadow solid. So let's add a key light over here. So to do that in illustration, let's punch a hole on our shadow solid so that this area would have the local colors. Now let's add a fill light. To do that, let's just change the color of our shadow solid and lower the opacity. Finally, let's add a backlight over here. It's just another solid color in the shape of the side edges of the illustration. And let's lower the opacity. To change the color of our key light, we can have another solid color in the shape of the negative space of our shadow solid. And set the blending mode to overlay. And just adjust the opacity. You can mix and match different colors and different blending modes to match different moods. If you enjoyed this video and want to support our channel, then you can join our membership. By becoming a member, you'll get access to frame-by-frame animation lessons. So it's like hitting two birds with one stone. On one side, you get to support this channel that would allow us to create more quality content like this. And at the same time, you'd get to learn frame-by-frame animation from scratch. So if you're interested, click the join button below or click this link. Thanks, and I hope to see you in the next video.